you told your friend you're not okay? And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Now, picture this. You're on a cruise ship, sailing through the crystal clear waters of the Caribbean. The sun is shining, the drinks are flowing, and everyone's having a great time. But what happens when that party takes a dark turn? In this episode of Dark Waters, we'll be diving into the case of Tammy Grogan, a young woman who vanished without a trace on a luxury cruise liner. We'll explore the investigation, the suspects, and the shocking twists and turns that led to the stunning conclusion. I'm Trevor Shelby, a criminal justice expert and public servant, and I'm here to guide you through the murky waters of cruise ship true crime. From the high seas to the courtroom, we'll explore the stories of the crimes and remember the victims who lost their lives. If you're ready to join me on this journey, hit that subscribe button and be sure to leave a review. And if you have a tip or a story you'd like to share, leave it in the comment section below. Now, let's set sail. In September of 2006, a single mother named Tammy Grogan embarked on a cruise ship in the Gulf of Mexico, seeking a well-deserved break. Little did she know that this would be the start of a baffling and chilling disappearance that left investigators and her loved ones searching for answers for over a decade. Before we visit that ill-fated trip, let's take a look at who Tammy was. Tammy Grogan was a strong, dedicated single mother who had poured her heart and soul into raising her 16-year-old son, Jimmy Fleshman. Their bond was seemingly unbreakable, and Tammy's love and devotion to Jimmy defined her life. Their relationship was filled with shared moments, laughter, and the unbreakable bond between mother and her son. Tammy worked hard as a dental assistant and lived in Toledo, Ohio, and worked hard to make ends meet. They didn't have a lot, but what they did have was each other. Now, imagine a world where love and concern collide, where a mother's intuition battles against the allure of extravagant gifts and mysterious relationships. This is the captivating backdrop to Tammy Grogan's life before she stepped foot on that ship. Tammy found herself caught in a web of complexity. It all began when Craig Morgan, a charismatic 25-year-old from West Toledo, entered Jimmy's life. How did they meet, you ask? Well, it was through none other than Tammy's own aunt, Deb Graff. As story has it, Tammy and her Aunt Deb had fallen out of touch. But Deb decided that she wanted to reconnect with her family, especially her niece. Tammy and Deb started going out on the weekends, bonding over shopping and thrift store finds. As the weeks went on, Tammy found that Deb was spending an awful lot of time on her cell phone. Finally, curiosity got the better of Tammy, and she asked, "Who are you talking to?" Deb told her that it was a young man, someone she actually used to babysit. His name? Craig Morgan. To Deb, Craig was a good friend to know. He was young, 25 years old, wealthy, and lived a lifestyle that they were not accustomed to. Tammy wanting to plan something fun with her aunt, she invited Craig over to meet the family. But Tammy didn't realize that she was putting Jimmy in harm's way. Craig and Jimmy became pretty good friends. Craig wasted no time in becoming an influential part of Jimmy's life. And this just wasn't just them spending time together. It was Craig giving Jimmy all kinds of gifts. We're talking limo rides, real expensive restaurant outings. Also helping him start a collection of watches. We're talking 23 watches. But here's the twist. Craig's career just remained a mystery, leaving everyone to wonder what his true identity was. You see, Craig would only tell them that he owned several corporations, but he kept it all secret. And this really isn't the strangest part. You see, Jimmy's grandfather walks in one day and finds both Craig and Jimmy basically cuddling. And they're doing all this nuzzling, a lot of touchy-feely stuff going on. And again, Jimmy's 16. And so Jimmy's grandfather talks to Tammy and lets her know what's going on. And maybe Tammy's blinded a little bit about what all these gifts and all this goodwill, that maybe she just overlooked a few things. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt there. But she does the right thing here. She's going to protect her family. She's going to protect Jimmy. And she forbids Jimmy to see Craig anymore. And this is one of the first times that there's a real big rift in this family. You see, Jimmy's now mad at his mom. And Deb is now mad at Tammy as well, because she's the one that introduced Craig and she's still kind of seduced by him. So Tammy's really kind of getting it from both fronts there, and no real support from her family. Now at this point, Deb has started to lose a lot of weight, and as a gift, Craig has decided he's going to purchase her and her family a cruise. So Craig buys tickets for both Deb and her sister, Bonnie, and also Tammy and her son, Jimmy. And to make things more comfortable, Craig decides he's not going to go on this trip, but he is going to send his sister and her ex-boyfriend. Now here's some things that happen that I want you to keep in mind because they are kind of important to the story. So Bonnie and Deb were going to stay in a room together. They had a balcony room. And Tammy and her son Jimmy had a room together. But when they got on board, Deb decided that she and Bonnie would trade rooms, giving the balcony room to Tammy and her son. But this was a cruise for Deb. Keep that in mind. This was because she lost 100 pounds. We want to, keep that in mind. And also the addition of Rebecca Morgan and Robbie Pantoja, which is her ex-boyfriend. It wasn't known to Tammy that they were going to join them until they already got on board. Now, the fact they kept all of this secret from Tammy really kind of worried her. She actually confided that to her mother early on in the cruise. Now, Tammy's worries were kind of put to rest because she took hundreds of photos on this trip, and it looks like she had a really good time and she was getting along with everyone, even Craig's sister. So they were on board the Carnival Imagination and they were headed out of Florida. So they made their stops in the Caribbean and then they were on their way back. So on their way back to Florida, this is when things get a little crazy. And you start piecing together just a few oddities that I want to point out. This night, the group gets together in one of their cabins and they have a very, very interesting party. They all pose for some risque photos, and some of it's understandable. So Rebecca Morgan and Robbie kind of cuddling together. But then you also have Jimmy and his great aunt kind of together there. What? And then you kind of start noticing in some of these other photos some other weird coincidences. So yeah, this was a wild party and some very questionable things were going on. Now this account comes from Bonnie, and Bonnie says that she wasn't feeling well at the tail end of this party. And so Jimmy went into the bathroom and brought her a glass of water. She drank that water and she remembers nothing else. So she woke up the next day in her cabin at noon and she has no clue how she got there. And this is a person who was not drinking at the party because she was taking medications that prevented her from drinking. And she woke up every morning at 6 a.m. like clockwork. She did not use an alarm clock. She always woke up at 6 a.m. Now, this was the last full day at sea, and when Bonnie got up, she looked for Tammy, couldn't find her anywhere. Now, when Bonnie asks the group where Tammy has gone, everyone tells her that she left the party that night saying that she was going to go find a man. And the way that that party was going, that's probably not, an unreasonable thing to think that might have happened. Now, Jimmy mentions that he goes back to his room and got a swim trunks, and he's pretty sure his mom was in the bathroom at that time. But he hasn't really been in the room since he's been staying with Craig's sister and her boyfriend. So the entire day goes on and no one sees Tammy, but no one's really alerted at this point. So the next morning comes and they dock in Miami, and as they get docked, that is when Tammy is finally reported missing and authorities are alerted to what's going on. Now, to investigators, this is already kind of an odd case. She wasn't reported missing for over 24 hours when she was last actually seen. So this is, kind of an oddity here. The detectives do just about anything that they can at this point. They collect evidence from the room, and then they get some information from the cruise line itself. Carnival actually gives them the door data, and they're able to use that to see who was using a card to swipe in and out of their room. You see, like a lot of hotel rooms, Carnival uses a key card to get inside your rooms. And even in 2006, this was sophisticated enough that it would record not only that the door is opened, but whose card opened it. So when asked, Jimmy tells the investigators that he only went back to the room once. But they quickly find out this is a lie through this data, and they confront him with that, and then he kind of plays it off. He gets nervous, and he tells investigators that, hey, yeah, I was back to the room more than once. But why would he lie about that in the first place? Another really smart thing the investigators did was they collected all of the glasses in the room, and they tested those glasses for drugs, and they found out that there was Rohypnol on the glasses. And that is a drug that will actually knock you out within 15 minutes. It's the date rape drug, and it will render you unconscious. Now remember, Bonnie, who was not drinking alcohol that night, said that she lost consciousness after drinking the water that Jim gave her. So we know that she was probably roofied. Was Tammy roofied as well? The next thing investigators wanted to do was they wanted to do a lie detector test with all of the individuals. Deb refused, but everyone else participated, and they came back inconclusive. Now, after that, investigators got very little cooperation from the family except from Bonnie. Bonnie at this point was starting to formulate her own speculations of what happened on this ship. Now this part's just a little disturbing. So after the cruise, they all have to fly home. And Bonnie, Deb, and Jimmy all have the same flight. So Bonnie actually witnesses Jimmy and Deb laughing and carrying on during this flight, not seemingly worried that Tammy is missing at all. Then she witnesses Jimmy begin to fondle Deb on the flight. What? Again, what? Huh? No. Things also kind of take another turn whenever they get home. Jimmy finds that his home with Tammy has been robbed. So that's another can of worms there. Their home computer is stolen. Now, after this cruise, Jimmy went to live with his grandfather. His grandfather had told reporters that Jimmy handled things a little too well. And Jimmy makes a deal with his grandfather that if he's able to complete high school early, that his grandfather will assist him with signing up for the military at an early age. Now, I guess things don't really go well for Jimmy because at the first opportunity, he actually goes AWOL and he is dishonorably discharged. And then after that, Jimmy's grandfather didn't see him anymore. So years and years and years went by, and I found an update on the WTOL 11 webpage, and they did a really detailed report. I highly recommend, if you're interested in this case, going and checking it out. It's where I actually got a lot of the information that I got for this video. Now, WTOL actually looks more into this, and they want to know where Jimmy went, which, is understandable. Has he got any more trouble, or is it, what's going on with him? They find that he's been living at an address in Texas. Now, this Texas address, when you look up the property records, is owned by Craig's stepfather. And Craig is listed to also be living there with his sister Rebecca. So you can kind of draw your own conclusions there to what may have happened. Here's the saddest thing. Bonnie told reporters that she believes that everyone was involved in this crime. She believes that Tammy's son Jimmy roofied his mother and then they threw her overboard. Now, there's no major evidence saying that that happened, except for, the roofies and incest and other things. But that doesn't really mean murder. But what do you think happened? Please comment below and let me know. That way we can maybe discuss what happened. Maybe come up with a few web sleuth ideas there. To date, no one has ever been arrested for this crime. And that's a shame, really. Investigators still consider this an open case, and they say that they are not giving up on Tammy just yet. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching, and know that you are unique, you are special, and you are loved. See ya.